All
Well,
right,
thanks
bless.
everyone for joining us on the Q&A here. We're so excited to talk to all the panelist speakers who've contributed so much. We have Samantha online, we have Ronald online. I know we're going to have SoCal Gas online and Edison online as well. One of the things that we're just going to jump right in the spirit of time, because we've got pretty much an 8-minute countdown, is I'll take any questions that come in. And in the meantime, if there aren't any open questions, I know we have participants filtering in, and the only thing keeping us from this not mushrooming heavily is our lunch break. So I'll kind of jump right in and speak to our esteemed panelists first. We'll kind of hit the corner of Honda first with Samantha, and thinking about this remote workforce and this new kind of virtual environment and the assimilation challenges that both from a supplier and corporation standpoint. And if she could kind of share some of that, or the opportunities, I should say, then maybe we all can relate a little bit and give us an edge in our everyday. Samantha.
Thanks, Tom. So happy to be here today. Thank you again for having me. So remote virtual world is just something that I'm still trying to get used to. I'm very excited for when things do go back to in person. But like I mentioned before, I have been moved to 100% virtual indefinitely. So my office, my cubicle space no longer exists. And so just trying to continue to connect with my suppliers in as humanly way as I possibly can, and following up with them. So some of the challenges that I've experienced virtually is that I'm being bombarded, I think, more with emails than I have in the past, whereas before we would just pick up the phone and call. And now that we've moved over to this virtual world, it's all about video conferencing and emails, and just trying to keep up with all of that has been a little challenging. But at the same time, you find yourself working even more and just to keep up with those relationships. So it's definitely something I'm still adjusting to, and Honda is adjusting to. But we are still doing our best to, continue with those relationships, to follow up again, to make sure everybody's doing okay, and just being as organized as we possibly can to make sure that suppliers know that we know you're there, just being a little patient with us as we make our rounds.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Thanks, Samantha. And now let's shift it a little bit towards the win side of the equation that Ronald mentioned and touched upon at Charter Communications. When in crisis, there lies opportunity. And so Ronald could share a little bit about supplier wins and the success they've had during this time.
Yeah, so first off, thank you for having Charter be represented on this panel. One of the ones that I'm particularly proud of is with a company called American Fashion Network. And we got connected to AFN, as we call them, the old-fashioned way. It was through networking. It was through friends of a friend, right? They put in the effort, the sweat and energy to try to get connected to us. And it paid off, right? So during when COVID started to get really bad, we were in dire need of PPE, and we were looking everywhere for suppliers who can basically manufacture PPE for us. And so, we, as Charter, did your typical RFP. We were connected to AFN. We invited them to be a part of it. And they showed value, right? They showed us that they can manufacture product here in the US, get it to us in the time that we needed it, in the order quantities that we were willing to provide, and they provided a very cost attractive price, right? And so they won with Charter really the old fashioned way, and it really goes back to continue to pound the pavement and really network, work that network, try to get connections. But I think what was particularly important for us was to get AFN certified as a women-owned enterprise, and they weren't at that time. And so we took that as an opportunity to kind of pay it back to them, worked with them to get them certified. I believe we actually paid for that certification. So part of what we do here at Charter in the supply diversity program is with identified high potential suppliers who can be certified, we'll actually pay for their certification. We have a consultant that we assign them, and they basically helps them basically get all the certification done. And so we got that done with them. And the fantastic thing was they took those certifications and ran with it. They won a huge contract with the U.S. Marines, and and we recently talked with the owner. I mean, she was so emotional on how that work with us basically just skyrocketed her business into a direction that she never thought of. And so, it's something that our team is, again, particularly proud of, and it really is a huge win for us seeing that company is winning.
Great. Thank you, Ronald. Appreciate that.
Definitely.
I know Troy's here online as well, representing Southern California Edison. And, it was said best, I know Dennis also mentioned it in the video about leaning on them, leaning on companies. Any word of advice that you could give, Troy, and how companies can maybe lean on corporations, maybe figuring out no question is a dumb question and asking for help? Any thoughts on that? Troy, I think you might be on mute still.
Thanks, Tom. I know that it's not unique to Edison, but I know, companies like Honda and Charter and SoCal Gas, some of these larger corporations really have good programs to bring on board would-be suppliers. So my colleague Dennis is unable to attend today, but I know we do have a robust training program, and we partner with the Edge Workshop program that we have throughout the community. And I think anybody that's looking to do business with companies like Edison and others represented here, if they really are interested in learning and finding out on ways on how they can become more competitive and go to these companies as a source, we certainly have programs to bring them on board and make that more accessible to them. So if you are interested, reach out to me. I have we have a booth here today with some information. As well, we have two colleagues of Dennis that are going to be sitting on the matchmaking session, and they can answer more specific questions that you may have.
Great. Thanks. And I know the utilities have a great investment in programs and workshops. So thank you for reminding me of that, and us of that. We have questions coming in chat, and that's okay. If you want to hit the chat, or you can go into the group Q&A. I know Vaughn Williams was in the attendees section. So I guess if he could join in on the panelist section, he could be on this panel. Otherwise, we're not privy to the participants and that in that manner. So one of the questions that also came in on the chat is, are you seeing any different changes in procurement patterns, especially in the last year and a half? Are there certain categories that that are being procured at a faster rate?
Hi, Tom. I'll take one. So I think procurement is always changing for us. Since COVID, we had some time to go back and look at our RFP inclusive process to put supplier diversity up front in the process rather towards the end of the process, where we're kind of scrambling and at a disadvantage when searching for diverse suppliers. So it's given us time to kind of shift things there and help mitigate bias. But also what we're seeing in procurement space, we're seeing facilities, anything that's facility related. We're seeing projects come in a lot for those items, especially because a lot of things had to be put on hold due to COVID. So we're seeing a huge push on that end, as well as our marketing and advertising side as well. Now that events are starting to pick back up again, we're starting to see events be in person again. So we're seeing a lot of project and opportunity on that side.
Okay, great. And then we also have, thank you, Samantha. And we also have a question. I'll make it the last one. I apologize. Um, I'm going to try to recap a couple questions in. Unfortunately, being hands-on involved, I have to do a hard stop and shift gears at 1 o'clock to be somewhere else. But I do want to get this, and I'll be late on mine. What kind of certifications are you looking at for your IT vendors? Yeah, I think that captures it.
I could take that.
Anyone? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the certifications that that we recognize, you can actually go to Charter's website and onto the supply diversity page, and it'll list out all the certifications that we look for. But it's your typical ones with an MSDC, WeBank, basically the large ones. Specifically for California, since we are considered a utility, we report out our diversity spend as part of the to the California Public Utilities Commission, and we basically utilize Supplier Clearinghouse as our platform for diverse suppliers. And so, if you're not familiar with Supplier Clearinghouse, absolutely go look that up, because specifically for California, Charter does communicate to the state basically our activities and program development around supply diversity spend, and who we're working with, where we're growing, areas of development, things like that. So basically look that up.
Great, thank you, Ronald. I think it's safe to say NMSDC, CPUC, and in some instances, WeBank West are good areas to be in. Generally, those are the usual suspects that the major the suppliers look at or primes look at if you're partnering. With that, I will personally take any questions and try to put them out there to our members in the future. But I've been forced to conclude this wonderful session. The content was so rich. I really want to thank Edison, SoCal Gas, Charter Communications, and Honda. Once again, you guys are incredible. You are a think tank here. And personally, I think the members are benefiting in many ways. And I'm almost reluctant to have to end this session, but thank you.